Hello, dear Marvinats. We have a new version for you. It's version 1.70. And apologies that it's been a couple months, but the mobile app is really taking up most of the time. And the good news are that in July, we should have the beta app ready so that our users can test it out and give us some feedback. It's really basically a whole new mobile app. Everything's different. But we're trying not to maybe finish everything before releasing because it's already much, much better than what we currently have. So stay tuned for that. But here's another new version for web and desktop. And let's see what is new. So last time we worked a lot on improving the onboarding because Marvin does have a lot of features, so it can become a bit of a steep learning curve on how to set it up and even have the overview of what is there. So we're always trying to make that easier, especially for new users. But you can always get the onboarding by just clicking on Help and Resources in the skinny sidebar and then getting started. And as you can see, we have these cards that give you entry points on how you can get started. And especially towards the end, we're adding new cards that will always be helpful. So the card we added now is called Solve a Problem. And you can see that we have different productivity time management challenges that people have. And when you click on it, it's going to offer you some ideas on how to solve that with features that we already have. We're going to build this out, especially as we redo the workflow library. We're going to add a video library with some tips and tricks videos. So we're going to also suggest them here. There's even a link to courses that are related to that struggle because something like procrastination, usually you need to go a little bit deeper. So just keep an eye out for that as we're building that out. But this is added and we're going to add more cards in future releases. Then we've added two fun new strategies, just both work modes, and work modes always mean the way that you can work off your list. We've gotten really good feedback, especially from our ADHD users, because novelty is such a big thing, and anything that gives us a little bit more dopamine and also takes out the decision paralysis. So with the spin the wheel, you can spin the wheel on a list and get a task like that. As usual, there's a bunch of settings, so play around and make it fit you. And then we also have the ball pit where it turns your tasks into balls. And you can see that the longer or bigger a task, if you use duration estimates, the bigger the ball. So that can also be helpful visually. So maybe we're not always gravitating towards the small ones or the big ones. So that can also help our brain. So those are just two simple work modes. Then we've added a action, and you can configure this, adding it into your hover menu as usual, or your right-click menu. So for anybody who's pretty new to Marvin, all of these menus are always configurable so that you can really make it yours and put the things there that you use the most and get rid of anything you don't use. So now there's this move to top and move to bottom so that you can quickly move something to the top of its list. We've also added this in the bulk menu so you can hold shift and click multiple items and move them to the top and to the bottom. That can be really helpful when you have long lists. Then we're also going through actually all the strategies, all the features, and incorporating all of the feedback we've collected over the years because we have probably like 20,000 insights, so like feedback pieces, and I'm sorting them for each category and trying to add as much as I can for the new releases for all the top feedback we've always gotten, so the most requested things. And this time I worked a lot on the planning ahead feature where you can plan items for your weeks, your months, and now we've also added a quarter planning because that was highly requested. And I've improved a couple of the functionality, so upward sync, so everything that's in a certain week is also going to be in a month. You can turn it on and off. The opposite is some people want a monthly planning, but then when something is planned more narrowly for a week, it should disappear automatically from the month, so you can use that. And we also added a capacity estimator, so you can now estimate how much time you have available to do your tasks, either in a simple way, by category, or by day. And then you will see this capacity bar in your boxes to see if you've overplanned. Now, of course, this is just a rough estimate because it's usually pretty hard to estimate projects, but depending on your work, you might have a lot of experience with that. So that can be really helpful to kind of keep an eye out on your schedule. And we've also improved the Braindump, which was added in the last release. So we got a lot of great feedback for there. You now can set it so that it previews your tasks first, so you don't feel like it's just going to create something and you have no control over it. And you can also edit the tasks a bit more. You can automatically add them to Orbit if you want. There's a history now, so if you do a brain dump and you feel like something hasn't worked, you don't have to feel like it's just going to get lost. All the stuff you typed out, it's always saving it in the history. And we're going to also add voice capture to that. And of course, this is going to come into the mobile app because it's a really key feature. And we have a few other ideas on how to make that more useful. And I think the syntax was also improved so that you don't necessarily have to use the dash anymore, but you can try to type a bit more freely the attributes of the task, and it's going to try to convert that. That's where preview is really helpful because you're going to be able to see if it applied the things correctly, like your labels and your priorities and things like that. And then we've also improved the orbit based on your feedback. That's another feature that is really well received from the last release. And now you can choose a label that will automatically make those items with that label go into the orbit. And you have a little bit more control over future scheduled items, how far into the future they should be included in the orbit. That was also requested. A feature that we also introduced and that is often used now with the orbit is the drawer, the bottom drawer. So this little button here. And we have also changed some things about that. For example, you can now pick much more easily many different lists to see here, any smart list, category, project, labels, your MIPS. So not just the orbit or your tasks. And the today is much more flexible. You can go to future dates. And similarly, we've included labels here and label groups. So you can have your columns by the label groups. We have a search here now, a filter to search all of your items. And finally, we managed to get the drag and drop done. So now you can actually, let me go to Orbit real quick. You can drag and drop into a list. So you will see, you can similarly also drag it out and it will remove it from the schedule. So that's pretty neat. And what else? Yeah, we just styled it a little bit better. And big issue was also how you couldn't open these projects and get to the actual subprojects and tasks. And there's also now another option to see the tasks independently. So you'll see it opened up this project now. Before it was just one item. And now it just has a header of the project title and all of the tasks underneath. So that's an option here on the top right. And yeah, that's the drawer improvements based on your feedback. Thank you so much for everybody who gave us feedback. Then I've also been working a lot on the calendar because that's such an important piece. And I know that there's a lot of issues, especially with the sync. That's just a very finicky feature, but I have now gotten to some really highly requested items about the calendar. For example, we have a rolling view, meaning the today is always the first column, and then you can set how many days in the future you want to see. That's most highly requested. And also to see your scheduled tasks here on top. Now, if you go to controls, which got a little bit of a redesign as well, fresh up, you can hide them because they're called on-time tasks. Those are just tasks scheduled for a day, but they don't have a specific time. And before, only the time tasks showed up on your calendar. But now you can drag them right from the top into your calendar, just like that. Here, drag and drop also works from the orbit. And we similarly added a way for you to see due items, even in the week view, not just the month view. That was also highly requested. And what else did we add to the calendar? Yeah, the due items, the scheduled items, The projects, I guess they weren't quite working with the calendar. I should be more smooth now. The time totals were a bit improved as well. Now I don't have anything here, but yeah, play around and let us know if you're using that and you notice anything. And the task left behind prompt, you can disable now. This is something that you can find under day planning. So you can say show left behind prompt, you can turn it on or off. Now again, if you use rollover strategy, so all of your tasks that are scheduled to previous days, automatically you won't see that dialog anyway, because everything always gets carried over. Which again, I've mentioned this last time, but I would say this is a very common thing that happens, and that is just that the to-do list becomes extremely long. So if you start to see your time totals be, more hours than the day even has, you probably want to clean up your today so that you can get a fresh start every day. And that's why we added the orbit, because you could transfer everything into the orbit so you don't feel like you're just losing it or making it go back into the big master list. And then you can at least start with some fresh days. So I highly recommend you do that if the to-do list has gotten out of hand. The super focused mode had a little bit of an issue when time tracking was off, and we have this nice progress bar, but if time tracking was off, it showed it, but it didn't fill it up. And now it does fill it up just based on how long you're in the session. If you really want to track the time against this task, turn time tracking on, and that will be solved. Then we also got a request, and this actually came from our beta testers, because in the spin wheel, you have a setting where it automatically starts time tracking from the task that's picked. This can be really good if you have a bit of an inertia when getting started, and this is very common, that, especially with procrastination, it just takes a bit of extra activation to get started. But when we know that time tracking is already starting, then it can kind of make us want to start right away, because a lot of us have this urge to also get the time tracking actually accurate. So we can up the motivation a little bit of adrenaline. So we've added this auto start time tracking when the task is picked for other work modes that also have to do with picking. So for example, the jar, when you pick it, you can also now set it to auto start time tracking. Super focus mode always started time tracking automatically, but we also have suggested task and random task as work modes. So those also now have those options. And you can also decide that it opens it automatically in the focus mode if that's your preferred mode. So now when you pick a task, it goes into focus mode instead of just showing down here, for example. Then I've improved these project shortcuts a bit. And this is something that really bothered me, because I love these shortcuts to quickly access the projects that I'm currently focusing on. They have now a plus button to quickly add a task. So when you think of another task to do for that project, you can add it. Similarly, how we've added the plus button for the skinny sidebar when you have a project link. Super useful. And there's a work session scheduler. If you have the work session turned on, it's going to schedule a work session. You can also reorder these now. So that's really cool. So you can get the right order. And you can even drag and drop items from your list right into these projects as well. That works. Similarly, you can now finally drag a task into a project in the same list. So that always felt a bit off, but now you can finally do that. So I hope you like this release. There's also bug fixes, and I know that there's still some bugs around. It is a really, really large piece of software, as you can imagine, because we have almost, I think, over 100 of these features you can turn on and off. But we're working on ironing the bugs out, making it easier to use, giving more guidance in app, making it look better, and incorporating all of that amazing feedback we've been getting over the years for all of these features, that some of them definitely need a little bit of love because they're maybe 10 years old. They've been with us since the start, so they need a little bit of update. And that's what we're currently doing. And of course, the mobile app, which is basically something we, 10 years ago, it wasn't so much mobile first. And it was more like a companion app that just had the basics. And then over time, mobile becomes so much more important, especially for people with ADHD who maybe want to be able to work on something on the computer and have the phone next to it to manage tasks or just on the go. And so it's really overdue to have also a good mobile experience. And that's what we're working on. And hopefully continuing to give you a release next month as well with more strategy overhauls and maybe a few new things here and there. And to keep it fun and interesting also for us working on the product. And I hope you really like this release and let us know, as always, all of your thoughts and feedback. Thank you so much.